Okay, good morning, everyone. Okay, now it's time for our Bible study review. The teen girls class has it this morning. So Sister Gloria is teaching the class, and we have Sister Christian Heel up here for this. So here you go.
Okay, we are now again at the end of a big study of Nehemiah. And it's been a good study. We've learned that Nehemiah has been he has been a very favorable leader with the Jews. And as we end and wrapped up this session with Nehemiah, with the Jerusalem, having built the Jerusalem wall, this lesson is called Abuses and Reform. So when we studied our lesson today, we realized that there were 3 abuses that really stood out. And then we also know that when there's a reform, we have
to change to improve.
Okay, so we're gonna indicate to you the 3 abuses and what those reforms were that Nehemiah brought for his Jewish brethren. Okay, one of the first abuses that we realize is that the Sabbath day was being disrespected. And one of the things for the Sabbath day that was noteworthy is that the Jewish people were supposed to do what, Christian?
Rest.
They were supposed to rest on that day. So they were disrespecting the Sabbath day. They were doing all kinds of things like bringing in the sheave. They were pressing wine. They were selling merchandise. They had the foreigners bringing in fish, selling fish. And so the reform that Nehemiah had for the disrespect of the Sabbath day was what, Christian?
He closed the gates and put guards out there.
Okay. Now, on the second abuse, we realized that there was a misuse of the temple. And if you studied the lesson, you know that how is his name pronounced? Eliashib allowed Tobias to live in the temple. So that was really an abuse of the use of the temple to allow him access like that. And so Nehemiah's reform was what, Christian?
He threw Tobias' things out, cleansed the room, and brought all the church belongings back in.
Okay, so Nehemiah, he cleaned house. That's what he did. And so now on the third abuse that we realized was that the Levites were not being supported like they were supposed to be. And so they were to the point that they had to go back to the fields. And so what was the reform that Nehemiah brought for his people when the Levites were not being supported?
He made them return to their place and cleanse themselves.
So those are the 3 abuses and the reforms that Nehemiah brought to his Jewish brethren. Now, as we close, we realize that Nehemiah has been a good leader, and he has followed God's plan that God had set for him to do. Even though during this time, people were doing what they thought they should do or doing what they wanted to do. And this was some of the things that happened during Judges. In our latest class, we have been studying about Judges and how during that time they did what they thought was right or did what they wanted to do. So we're closing now on Nehemiah, and we're realizing that we as Christians should submit leadership. like Nehemiah, and that with God's help, we can be humble enough to receive appropriate correction. So now that closes our study of Nehemiah, and we are looking forward to going back to Corinthians, because we studied Corinthians with Paul in the first Corinthians, and now we're going to be looking at Second Corinthians, and we're looking forward to that. So thank you, and this is